Commander Nyxphora of the Centaurian High Council massaged her crystalline temples as she reviewed the latest incident report. In her 300 years of managing Starbase Omega-9, she had never encountered a species quite like humans. The report on her holographic display detailed yet another culinary incident, as her staff had taken to calling them. When Isabella Martinez had arrived 6 months ago as part of the Earth Galactic Cultural Exchange Program, Nyxphora had expected the usual administrative challenges that came with integrating the new species into the station's ecosystem. What she hadn't anticipated was how this single human would completely upend the station's carefully maintained nutritional protocols. Computer, replay security footage from Cafeteria Section 7, Time Index 2344, Nyxphora commanded. The holographic display shifted to show Isabella's kitchen, where the human was engaging in what she called late-night meal prep. The recording showed Isabella chopping something red and glossy, her knife moving with practiced precision. Several Arcturian observers, their tentacles waving in what Nyxphora recognized as signs of distress, watched from a safe distance. The object being chopped was a bell pepper, according to the incident report, and its mere presence had triggered emergency alerts in 3 different environmental monitoring systems. "Those are perfectly safe," Isabella's recorded voice echoed through the commander's office. "On Earth, we consider these quite mild. Would you like to try some?" The Arcturian's color-shifting skin had flickered rapidly between shades of anxiety purple and curiosity green. One brave soul had extended a sensory tendril toward the offered slice of pepper, and that's when things had gotten interesting. The security footage showed the Arcturian suddenly illuminating in a brilliant display of bioluminescence, its translator struggling to keep up with the stream of exclamations. "By the ancient stars, it burns. It sings. It dances on my taste receptors. More. More." Within hours, word had spread through the station about the transcendental experience available in the human's kitchen. Security had to be posted to prevent unauthorized attempts to access Isabella's personal food storage. Nyxphora switched off the replay and pulled up the station's medical reports. Dr. Vaxtour, the chief cynobiologist, had submitted an extensive analysis of human dietary habits that read more like a horror story than a scientific document. Subject consumes multiple compounds known to be toxic to 82% of known sentient species, the report stated, including but not limited to capsaicin, theobromine, caffeine, and ethanol. Most disturbing is their practice of deliberately accelerating the decomposition of protein-rich substances, cheese, and then consuming the results. They refer to particularly aggressive strains of this decomposition as sharp or aged, and consider them delicacies. A soft chime announced a visitor. "Enter," Nyxphora called out, already knowing who it would be. Isabella Martinez stepped into the office, her dark hair tied back in what she called a messy bun, wearing the standard station uniform with several unauthorized modifications, namely, numerous pockets she had added to store what she called essential seasonings. "Commander," Isabella began, her expression serious, but with that peculiar human micro-expression they called a twinkle in her eye. "I understand there are concerns about my cooking methods, but I think we need to discuss the bigger picture here." Nyxphora gestured to the seat across from her desk. The bigger picture being, cultural exchange isn't just about sharing information. It's about sharing experiences. Food is fundamental to human culture. Yes, we eat things that seem strange or dangerous to other species, but that's precisely why we need to study and understand these differences. The commander's crystalline form shifted, reflecting her internal conflict. "You're suggesting a formal culinary research program," Isabella said, producing a data pad from one of her many pockets. "I've already drafted a proposal. We'll establish proper safety protocols, conduct controlled taste tests, and document everything. Think about it. Humans evolved on a planet that most species consider a death world. Our relationship with food isn't just about nutrition. It's about adaptation, creativity, and bringing people together." Nixvora accepted the datapad, noting that Isabella had already gathered supporting signatures from 30 different species representatives, including, surprisingly, all 7 of the Arcturians from the Pepper incident. You realize, Nixvora said slowly, that if I approve this, the Galactic Council will be watching our station very carefully. Isabella smiled, displaying her omnivorous teeth in what she had assured everyone was a friendly gesture. Good. Let them watch. Because what they're going to see is something unprecedented, a true melding of cultures through food. Besides, she added with that human expression of mischief, wait until they try what I call fusion cuisine. Nixvora felt her crystals vibrate in what might have been either dread or excitement. Perhaps, she reflected, when it came to humans, those emotions weren't so different after all. Looking down at the proposal, she made her decision. The station's motto was advancing understanding among stars. After all, even if that understanding now had to include why humans deliberately infected their beverages with microorganisms to make something called kombucha. Very well, Chef Martinez, you have my provisional approval. But she held up a crystalline finger, the first sign of serious medical complications, and we discontinue immediately. Isabella's smile widened. Trust me, Commander, this is going to change everything, one meal at a time. As she watched the human practically bounce out of her office, Nixvora added a personal note to her daily log. Perhaps the true test of any advanced civilization isn't how they handle the great mysteries of the universe, but how they react to discovering that humans intentionally eat foods that have been aged in caves for years. The galaxy may never be the same. The emergency meeting of Starbase Omega-9's senior staff was interrupted by what Commander Nixvora could only describe as a conga line of Valaxians serpentining past the conference room's transparent walls. The normally stoic crystalline beings were humming in harmony and trailing sparkles of jubilant energy, a sight as unprecedented as it was disturbing. What exactly did they consume? Nixvora asked, her crystalline form vibrating with concern. Dr. Vaxtor consulted his medical scanner. According to these readings, something called curry. Isabella Martinez, now officially the station's human culinary ambassador, cleared her throat. Actually, that would be my Vindaloo special. The Valaxians mentioned they couldn't taste anything less than plasma temperature, so I adjusted the recipe accordingly. Security Chief Zixklar, a towering insectoid, clicked his mandibles in agitation. We've had 17 reports of supposedly rational beings licking the plates clean in the cafeteria. Clean. Do you know how unhygienic that is? That's actually a compliment on Earth, Isabella offered helpfully. Though usually we try to be more subtle about it. The security footage playing on the conference room's holoscreen told the story. What had begun as a simple cultural exchange dinner had evolved into something the station's AI was struggling to classify. Various species were displaying unprecedented behaviors. Methane-breathing Havarians requesting seconds, despite having no concept of recreational eating in their culture, telepathic Kuriks sharing spice-induced hallucinations, and most alarmingly, a group of normally antagonistic species engaging in something Isabella called a potluck. The situation is growing exponential, Dr. Vaxtor reported, his tentacles twisting anxiously. We've discovered an underground network trading in human spice blends. The Arcturians have developed a particular attraction to something called ghost peppers. They're calling it touching the face of creation. Isabella winced. In my defense, I did label everything with clear warning signs. Warning signs, Nixvora noted dryly, which apparently only made certain species more determined to try them. The Galactic Council has received petitions from 3 different species requesting Earth be classified as a controlled substance. The whole planet? Isabella asked, failing to hide her amusement. Their argument is that anything capable of evolving humans and their culinary preferences must be quarantined for public safety. The commander's crystalline form shifted to display patterns of exasperation. They're particularly concerned about something called competitive eating contests. The situation had grown more complex when word spread about human children consuming something called sour candy for entertainment. Several leading xenobiologists had to be sedated after watching footage of human food challenges. Perhaps, Isabella suggested, we should focus on the positive diplomatic implications. The Havarians and Corics shared a meal together for the first time in 3 centuries. Over tacos, of all things. Security footage showed the historic moment. Representatives of the long-feuding species discovering they both enjoyed something called guacamole, leading to the first productive peace talks in generations. The station's diplomatic corps was still trying to process the concept of guac bringing people together, as Isabella had phrased it. There's more, Dr. Vaxtour added. The Arcturians have begun attempting to cultivate earth peppers in their hydroponics bays. They're calling it enlightenment farming. Chief Zixklar's antennae twitched. And the Valaxians have submitted a formal request to establish an Earth-style cooking show on the station's entertainment networks. They're calling it Cooking with Chaos. Commander Nixvora steepled her crystalline fingers, watching as another group of spice-influenced beings danced past the conference room. This time, it appeared to be a mixed group attempting something Isabella identified as the Macarena. Chef Martinez, the commander said finally, "It seems we've passed the point of no return. The only logical course of action is to establish formal protocols for this culinary revolution." Isabella's face lit up. "I have some ideas about a fusion restaurant. Imagine combining Havarian methane cuisine with Earth's molecular gastronomy. One step at a time," Nixvora interrupted hastily. "First, we need to address the immediate concerns. Chief Zixklar, establish a spice registry. All Earth seasonings are to be treated as controlled substances, with appropriate warnings and waivers." "Should we include a section about cheese?" the security chief asked. The Corics have become particularly fascinated by something called blue cheese, despite it technically qualifying as a biohazard under station protocols. "It's not that bad," Isabella protested. "Well, okay, maybe some of the French varieties." "Dr. Nixvora continued, "I want a full research team assembled. If humans can safely consume these substances, there must be scientific principles we can apply to make them safer for other species." Dr. Vaxtour's tentacles writhed in scientific excitement. "Perhaps we could start with something simple, like this mayonnaise substance that apparently contains raw eggs suspended in oil." The commander held up a hand as yet another group of spice-influenced beings cavorted past the conference room, these ones attempting to recreate something Isabella identified as Saturday Night Fever. "One final thing," Nixvora added. "Chef Martinez, the Galactic Council has requested a formal presentation on human culinary practices. They want to understand how your species turned the act of eating into, as they put it, an extreme sport." Isabella grinned. "Wait until they hear about competitive hot dog eating contests." The entire room groaned in unified horror, while somewhere in the distance, the sound of another spontaneous food-inspired dance party echoed through the station's corridors. Commander Nixvora made a mental note to update the station's medical protocols to include treatment for something humans called food coma. The galaxy would never be the same, but perhaps that wasn't such a bad thing. After all, who could have predicted that humanity's most powerful contribution to galactic peace would be their ability to turn almost anything into a snack? Security Chief Zixklar's antennae twitched violently as he reviewed the surveillance footage from Maintenance Level 6. "Commander, we have a situation." The grainy holographic feed showed what appeared to be a covert meeting between a Havarian methane breather and a silicon-based crystalloid, conducted in the shadows of the station's lower decks. The exchange was quick. A small package transferred, crystalline credits exchanged, both parties quickly dispersing. "Another spice deal?" Commander Nixvora asked wearily. "Worse," Zixklar clicked. "Bacon." "Another spice deal?" Commander Nixvora asked wearily. "Worse," Zixklar clicked. "Bacon." The commander's crystalline form clouded with concern. Despite their best efforts to regulate Earth cuisine, an underground culinary movement had taken root in Starbase Omega-9's lower levels. What had begun with simple spice trading had evolved into something far more complex. "Show me the latest reports," she ordered. The security chief projected a series of incidents across the office walls. Modified food replicators producing unauthorized Earth dishes, secret taste testing parties in abandoned cargo base, a mysterious figure known only as the Sauce Boss distributing contraband condiments. "The situation is getting out of hand," Zix-Clar continued. "We've discovered at least 3 unauthorized kitchens in the maintenance sections. The Arcturians have developed something they're calling extreme pepper meditation. And yesterday we caught a group of Valaxians attempting to ferment cabbage in an unused Jeffries tube." Ferment cabbage. Apparently, it's called kimchi. Chef Martinez says it's perfectly normal, but the smell triggered 7 different biohazard alerts. The commander was about to respond when her office door chimed. Isabella Martinez entered, looking slightly singed and carrying what appeared to be a smoking container. "Before you say anything," Isabella began, "the explosion in Lab 3 was completely controlled. And more importantly, we've made a breakthrough in cross-species cuisine." Nix-4's crystalline structure rippled with resignation. "Do I want to know? We've successfully created the galaxy's first hybrid dish, safe for both methane brothers and carbon-based life forms. We're calling it quantum chili. The Havarians say it tastes like stellar plasma with notes of supernova, while the Kordics experience it as a spicy stew. The quantum entanglement properties of the beans are particularly fascinating." "Chef Martinez," the commander interrupted, "while your culinary innovations are impressive, we have a more pressing concern. The underground food movement is growing beyond our control." Isabella had the grace to look slightly guilty. "Ah, you've heard about the Secret Supper Club." "The what?" The security chief's mandibles clicked rapidly. "My team discovered it last week. Different species meeting in secret to share their attempts at recreating Earth dishes. The crystalloids have been trying to make something called rock candy. Apparently, they think it's hilarious. It's not just about the food," Isabella explained earnestly. "These gatherings are bringing different species together in ways traditional diplomacy never could. Did you know the Havarians and the Kordics have started a joint research project? They're trying to create temperature-neutral tacos." The commander's crystalline form flickered between patterns of concern and curiosity. "And the modified replicators. A necessary evil," Isabella admitted. "The standard ones can't capture the subtle complexities of Earth cuisine. You can't properly replicate the texture of a good sourdough bread or the umami of a well-aged cheese. Though some of the modifications have had unexpected results." As if on cue, an alert flashed across the commander's desk. "Emergency in Hydroponics Bay 12. Unauthorized growth of something called Ghost Pepper X. Containment teams are requesting hazmat suits." "Oh, the Arcturians must have gotten those seeds I was saving for a special occasion." Isabella trailed off at the commander's stern crystalline patterns, "which I know nothing about, of course." Zix-Clar's antennae drooped. "We also have reports of Valaxians attempting to create their own Earth-inspired dishes. They're calling it fusion cuisine, but I believe confusion cuisine would be more accurate. Their attempt at plasma-grilled cheese melted through 3 decks. Perhaps," Commander Nix-4 said slowly, "we need to change our approach. Fighting this cultural exchange is clearly futile. Chef Martinez, what would you suggest?" Isabella's eyes lit up. "Legalize it, all of it, but with proper supervision and safety protocols. We can establish a culinary research center, share knowledge openly, develop safe methods for cross-species cooking. And the secret kitchens, turn them into cultural exchange hubs. The station's motto is, 'Advancing understanding among stars.' Right? What better way than through food? Besides," she added with a grin, "wait until they try what I call fusion sushi. It's like regular sushi, but with no Both the commander and security chief shouted simultaneously, having learned to fear that particular tone in the chef's voice. As if to punctuate their concern, another alert flashed. Multiple Arcturians reporting transcendental experiences after consuming something called Carolina Reaper ice cream. Medical Bay requesting additional neural suppressants. The day the station's main food synthesizer exploded was, in retrospect, inevitable. The machine had been pushed far beyond its original specifications, forced to approximate everything from Earth curry to Havarian plasma soup. Its final attempt to replicate something called extra chunky peanut butter resulted in a spectacular meltdown that filled 3 decks with the smell of burnt legumes. Commander Nix Vora stood in the ruins of the main cafeteria, watching emergency teams attempt to contain what Chef Isabella Martinez had casually termed a minor setback. Minor. Dr. Vaxtour's tentacles writhed in agitation. The station's primary food production system is offline. We have 12,000 beings from 300 species who require sustenance. The backup synthesizers can only produce basic nutrient paste, and after experiencing Earth cuisine, nobody wants to eat that anymore. Isabella, covered in what might have been either soot or artisanal char, grinned. Actually, this might be exactly what we needed. The commander's crystalline structure displayed patterns of both dread and curiosity. Explain. We've been trying to force Earth cuisine into alien technology. But what if we did it the other way around? Traditional Earth cooking methods, adapted for different species. We still have the hydroponics bays, the protein cultivators, even that weird fungal garden the mycelians started. You want to feed the entire station by cooking manually. Chief Zixklar's mandibles clicked in disbelief. Not just me. Everyone. Each species has their own food preparation traditions. We just need to bring them together. The Arcturians' heat tolerance makes them perfect for grilling. The crystalloids understand fermentation on a molecular level. The Havarians can achieve temperatures perfect for flash frying. As she spoke, something remarkable was already happening. Throughout the station, beings of different species were coming together, sharing what they knew about food preparation. The Valaxians offered their plasma chambers as makeshift ovens. The Koriks, with their telepathic abilities, proved extraordinarily gifted at understanding flavor combinations. Within hours, the station had transformed. Empty cargo bays became impromptu kitchens. The hydroponics bays worked overtime, guided by species who had evolved alongside plants. Even the mycelians' fungal garden proved crucial, producing compounds that could safely approximate Earth umami across multiple biochemistries. It's beautiful, Isabella whispered, watching a crystalloid and a Havarian carefully adjust the temperature of a wok. This isn't just about feeding people anymore. It's about coming together, sharing knowledge, creating something new. Commander Nixwar's crystalline form sparkled with what might have been emotion. Perhaps this is what we needed all along. A new galactic cuisine. 1 year after the great synthesizer meltdown, Starbase Omega-9 had become the culinary capital of the galaxy. The station's former maintenance levels had been transformed into a sprawling complex of restaurants, teaching kitchens, and research facilities. The Galactic Council had officially recognized cross-species culinary arts as a legitimate field of study. Commander Nix Vora stood at the viewport of her office, watching ships from across the galaxy dock with the station. Many came for diplomatic meetings or trade negotiations, but just as many came for the food. The latest numbers are in, Isabella announced, entering the office with her usual enthusiasm. The former chef now held the title of Director of Sino-Gastronomic Relations, though she still preferred to be called simply Chef. How bad is it? The commander asked, her crystalline structure braced for the worst. Bad? It's amazing. The new Fusion Academy has a waiting list 3 years long. The Arcturians' Enlightenment Pepper research has revolutionized neural medicine. The Havarians and Koriks have officially signed their peace treaty over a dish they created together called Nebula Noodles. The commander's structure shifted thoughtfully. And the incidents? down by 95%. Turns out when you teach people the proper way to handle Earth spices, they're less likely to trigger station-wide biohazard alerts. Though we did have that small issue last week when the Valaxians discovered wasabi. Don't remind me. Half the medical bay is still green. Isabella laughed. But that's just it. Everyone's learning. The crystalloids have developed entirely new forms of molecule-stable seasonings. The mycelium's fungal research has created safe alternatives for species that can't handle Earth proteins. We're not just sharing food anymore. We're creating an entirely new galactic cuisine. As if to emphasize her point, a group of beings from different species passed by the office, animatedly discussing what appeared to be recipes. A crystalloid was explaining the concept of molecular gastronomy to a fascinated Havarian, while a Korix took notes on flavor harmonics. The Galactic Council wants to establish similar programs on other stations, Isabella continued. They're calling it the Omega-9 model, using food as a foundation for diplomatic relations and cultural exchange. Commander Nixvora's crystalline form displayed patterns of pride and amusement. And to think, it all started with you offering some bell peppers to the Arcturians. Food has always been how humans connect, Isabella said softly. We share meals to celebrate, to mourn, to welcome strangers, and turn them into friends. Now we're doing it on a galactic scale. The commander turned from the viewport, her structure glowing warmly. The station's new motto has been approved, where tastes unite the stars. Perfect, Isabella grinned. Though wait until they try the new dish I'm working on. It combines Havarian plasma techniques with Earth barbecue methods. Chef, Nixvora interrupted quickly, her structure displaying familiar patterns of alarm. Perhaps we should focus on consolidating our current successes before. But Isabella was already gone, humming as she headed toward the experimental kitchens. Through the station's corridors, the sounds of dozens of species cooking, eating, and laughing together echoed like music, a symphony of unity created by the simple, profound act of sharing food. Commander Nixvora added one final note to her log. In the end, humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization wasn't their technology, their resilience, or even their creativity. It was their understanding that the quickest way to bridge the vast distances between stars and species is through the sharing of a meal. Even if that meal occasionally sets off the fire suppression systems. The galaxy had indeed changed, one taste at a time, and somehow it had changed for the better.